This meeting is being recorded.
I always get taken aback by the announcement. So good morning. We are going to be looking at collocations at the beginning of class. That's words that fit together, words that we use when we talk about a particular subject. Okay. And so we're going to start with a listening with the BBC Learning English page. And then we're going to move on to working with News in Levels. Now, how many people have been to the News in Levels website or downloaded the app? Be honest. Who has been to the News in Levels? Thank you, Jad, and fantastic work on the Padlet site too. Who's been to News in Levels?
I was there. I
Yes?
forgot that app.
Wave your hand. Just put your hand up if you have. I just want to see real quick who has. Marella, good. Intisar, fantastic. Just put your hand up if you've been there. Excellent. Okay. We'll talk some more about that, and I want to hear from you later. Thank you for letting me know. If you've been to News in Levels, put your hand up. Everybody? Okay. You can put your hands down now. So we're going to go to News in Levels, and we're going to do some work on our grammar. Once again, looking at those sentences. So last time we looked at sentences. We took our small sentence and we added information to it. So now we're going to go to News in Levels and look at their simple sentences, their compound sentences, and their complex sentences, and see if we can see, how did they do that? How did they add the information to make those big sentences? So we've done it ourselves. Now we're going to go to their work and break it apart and see how they did it. Okay. So, but let's start with some vocabulary on mathematics. So there we go. Oh, and just a reminder, our last 30 minutes is going to be focus on the IELTS. All right. We'll see if that 30 minutes is enough. If not, we might shift it up a bit more. So we'll see how that goes today. So our last 30 minutes, so stick around. Our last 30 minutes is going to be an introduction. It's going to start our focus on the IELTS work. Okay. Right. Let's share this screen. And make sure I share the sound. I always forget to do that. And let's go. I'm just going to share the full screen. There we are. Good morning. Okay. So we've got a 6-minute English on the fear of numbers. And what I'd like to do is let's look at the screen for a bit and look at the vocabulary. So this section right here is their vocabulary for this section. Let's look at these. So numbers, all of these would be collocations for the vocabulary for talking about numbers for the most part. There's a few extra things though. So a numbers person, that's a idiomatic phrase. Someone who is good at maths is a numbers person. Put off means to dislike. Has anyone seen these words before or encountered them? Are these new? So the reason I'm focusing on that, oratory, being a good public speaker. It's important if you're a teacher to be a little good at oratory. Spurious is another way of saying false, wrong, inaccurate. How about potential? The possibility. We all have the potential to be good at numbers. And numeracy, that's what we call basic mathematics skills. So if you can add up at the grocery store and know what you're going to be, what you've chosen is going to cost, then that's basic numeracy. All right, I just want you to listen for these words and how they use them. All right, so while we're listening, listen for these words and how they use them. All right.
6 Minute English
from bbclearningenglish.com.
Hello, this is 6 Minute English from BBC Learning English. I'm Sam.
And I'm Neil.
Neil, would you describe yourself as a numbers person?
If you mean, am I someone who understands numbers and is good at using them and interpreting data, then no.
Okay, so maybe you're like me. You weren't good at maths at school?
No, I wasn't. Algebra, geometry, times tables, it was all very confusing.
Yeah, we're not alone, Neil. But the fear of numbers might just be in our heads, and we might have enough number knowledge to get by with. That's what we'll be exploring in this programme while looking at some relevant vocabulary. But, sorry Neil, I'm going to start with a maths question. It's thought the largest number in the world is called a googol. It's written with a 1 and how many zeros? Is it A, 100 zeros, B, 1,000 zeros, or C, 10,000 zeros?
I'll guess 10,000 zeros.
Okay, I'll reveal the answer later on. But let's talk more about the fear of numbers now. Of course, numbers are important in our lives, but one bad experience at school can put us off them for life. Put off means make someone dislike something.
What put me off maths was it was not only complicated but very theoretical, not very practical, useful for real-life situations. And the problem now is it's easy to be fooled by fancy figures that we get told about.
This is something the Y Factor programme on BBC World Service has been exploring. They spoke to Charles Seif, who's an author and professor at New York University, who explained why we're at the mercy of people who throw numbers at us.
Because we are primed not to question numbers, certain people have learned that numbers are perhaps the most powerful tools for deception. Advertisers, marketers, politicians who try to convince the public through spurious oratory have learned that the one thing that they can't get challenged on is numbers, or a challenge is ineffective.
Interesting words from Charles Seif there. He explains that numbers might be a powerful tool for deceiving people. Many of us are primed, so told to behave in a certain situation and in a certain way, not to question numbers, accept them as fact.
Yes, and this is dangerous. So when politicians, for example, do good and effective public speaking, known as oratory, the information they give could be spurious. That means false, not correct or inaccurate. But numbers are more persuasive. They make you believe something is true.
So, unless you're confident with numbers, you're unlikely to challenge the facts and figures that you're given. So, Sam, if I said to you that 10% of the 10 million people who eat meat have a 20% chance of being 5% overweight, would you challenge that?
I'd have to go away and work that out. As I said, Neil, I'm not a numbers person. Even talking about numbers makes me anxious.
Well, interestingly, the Y Factor program explained that girls are more anxious about learning maths. But even if they feel more nervous about maths, they aren't any worse with numbers than their more confident classmates. It's just the fear that's stopping you.
Well, maybe, but one bad experience can knock our confidence and ability to use maths.
Take comfort from Paula Miles, who teaches statistics to psychology students at St Andrews University. She told the Y Factor that she thinks there's no such thing as a numbers person.
There is no such thing as someone who's a number person or not. If we're taught in the right way, then I think we all have the potential to be a numbers person. I'm not saying we're all going to grow up to be mathematicians, but we're all going to get to a point where we have the basic numeracy skills that we need to be able to cope in our environment.
I feel a little better now. We all have the possibility within us, or potential, to be a numbers person.
Yes, I think it's about survival. We want to develop numeracy, basic mathematical skills, to use numbers in a particular situation that we're in. We might not be a genius like Einstein, but we know enough to work things out.
I wonder if you worked out the answer to my question correctly, Neil. Earlier I asked about what's thought to be the largest number in the world, called a googol. How many zeros does it have? 100 zeros, 1,000 zeros, or 10,000 zeros?
I said 10,000 zeros.
Sorry, Neil. A googol is 10 to the 100th power, so a mere 100 zeros.
I don't think I'll be using that number anytime soon, but I might be using some of the vocabulary we've discussed today, including a numbers person.
That's someone who understands numbers and is good at using them and interpreting data, not like us.
If you're put off something, it means you are made to dislike something. And to be primed means to behave in a certain situation.
The skill of effective public speaking is known as oratory, and spurious means false, inaccurate, or not correct.
And when we have the possibility within us to do something, we describe it as our potential, and having numeracy means having basic mathematical skills.
But now we've reached the number 6. 6 minutes of English. Thanks very much for listening. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
6 Minute English.
From the BBC.
Right. Did you hear those words in the talk?
Yeah.
Were you able to pick out those words in the talk?
Yeah.
Good, good. Excellent, good. That is, by the way, for the IELTS students, that is part of the skill of listening for something. All right, we're going to always be listening for something when we're listening on the listening exam. That's part of our preparation. It's always nice to be able to listen for something. It helps you have yet another reason to listen. So what do you think? Are you a numbers person?
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe. If you think that you might be a numbers person, is it possible that you could? All right, after listening to that, do you think you could be a numbers person? You can put your hand up if you think so. Do you think you could be? Now, what does could mean? What was the word that they used that was like could in the? It means you have the. You can type it in the chat if you want. You have the potential. Exactly. Do you have the potential to be a maths person?
What could?
Oh, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Just I listen careful the conversation with the girl and talking about the math and numbers exactly. And I listen where the girls say, example, the girls that have opportunity to learn more in the math, like the boys. And something else is about the numbers, is like how many zeros they have a big numbers, and it's
Yes.
like
That was a really big number, wasn't it?
100,000, I think so now.
Yeah. So I think it's very important to have a little understanding of statistics these days in order to understand a lot of the news. So especially medical news, things like that. What are other places, what are the news subjects that always have numbers associated? Can you think? Either shout out or pop it in the chat.
Finance and accounting.
Finance, exactly. Yes. What other news subject would have numbers in it?
War. In the war, some people killed or died, or some people arrested, or how many
They'll
people.
always be talking about that, won't they?
Mm.
Any others that we can think of? When else in the news will you hear numbers?
World's economy.
Economy, exactly.
And in the
population, we can listen the news, the numbers, and as well in the accounting amount.
You can always type things into the chat as well if you can think of something else that we have.
disease is something people just through the hospital they announce there is some disease people
Medicine.
now risk, yeah, like
In
COVID.
medicine.
Every day they give information about how many people under the risk of COVID by
Yeah.
numbers.
Budgets, exactly. Well done.
Physics.
Physics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, hello. Hello,
Yeah,
Kama.
I tried to use my laptop, but I don't think, because I want to participate, but I don't think you can hear me or you
I
can
can
see
hear
me.
you. Yeah, I can hear you and see you. It's all
I'm
good.
trying to use
Welcome.
my laptop, but it's not working.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's all right. The Zoom is on.
Okay.
But if I even want to send message, it's not going. But if I use my phone, I can send message.
Okay, because I saw you in the chat. This is good. All good. All
Okay.
right. How about the environment? Would you find numbers in articles about the environment?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so almost every subject is going to have some numbers in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very good.
Subject like statistic.
Absolutely. The thing is, statistics are in every subject.
Yeah, every subject, even English and in maths, in physics, chemistry, in biology. I think maths everywhere. Yeah.
The reason I think statistics is so important is if every time they come out with a new, you should drink 1 glass of red wine a day to make your heart healthy. And then I want to know what was the method for the study? What was the, how many people did they study? And what was their, because if they only look at 100 people, is that statistically significant? Or if they look at 10,000 people, which is the better study? Which one is more likely to give you accurate information? So the bigger studies, so I always, whenever I see any medical news or things like that, I always want to know what is the size of the group they were studying and how did they study them?
Yeah.
You can say if you have 2 people and one person drinks red wine every night and the other person doesn't, well, 50% of people drink wine. If you've got 10,000 people, it might be a little different. So good. Well, hopefully that now we're thinking about numbers and language around numbers. And this is the benefit, and I'll be pointing this out in the news and levels as well. This is the benefit of looking at articles and listening to things on 6 Minute English. Even if it's not super hard. What it's giving you are sets of words that work together to describe or explain a subject. Okay. And those groups of words are your superpower in making yourself understood, in communication in English. They make even simple words more powerful because you're using the words that are focused, that fit together to describe a subject. Okay.
Wow.
So even if you've got simple words, you put the right ones together, you communicate even better. So there we go. Right. I have, that's that one. Yeah. Okay. So speaking of words that go together, when we were looking at, does everyone remember, what were the first things we added to our sentences? We had our core sentence. What's in our core sentence? What was in our core sentence? What are the three parts of our core sentence?
Subject, verb, object.
Yes, subject, verb, object. Yay. And the first things that we added to our core sentence were?
Clause or phrase.
We got there, but the first things we added, which
Suffix or
was
prefix.
single words, right? Adjectives.
Oh,
and
adverb.
Adverbs. Right.
Okay.
Okay, so the first thing we added were adjectives and adverbs.
Can
So,
I ask a question?
yes, you may.
What lesson are we? Is it IELTS or? Because I can't under which lesson is this one?
This is a comment. We're
English and IELTS.
yes.
Okay. Well, I just started today. Sorry, I started
That's
today.
okay. All right, for everyone who started recently, and so we're going to be covering grammar. I'm doing a structural approach to grammar, and that's going to be for the first hour and a half, and then our last 30 minutes is going to be targeted IELTS.
IELTS.
The grammar and writing that we're working on is what will get you your 7 in the writing. If you can write clear, focused sentences, paragraphs, and essays, you can get your 7 in the writing. So I'm focusing on that for the academic English, and this afternoon at 11:30, we will be focusing entirely on the IELTS. All right. So let's take a look at our core sentence again. And anyone who has joined recently, please, I will be sending out an email. If you email this afternoon, as usual, if you will reply to me, to my Gmail account, I will send you the past week's work as well. All right, so let's share this screen again. And because we've got, so as we see, here's our core sentence. All right, it's our core sentence, very straightforward. We have a subject, we have a verb, we have an object. What's the one word we can't do without? What's
a verb?
Exactly. We always have to have an active verb. So great. So we looked at adjectives and adverbs, and then when we were working on articles, We looked at superlatives because with a superlative, we need the definite article because there could only be one most. But now there are other ways. So we have beautiful, very beautiful, and the most beautiful. What are some of the other words that we can use to augment our adjective or adverb? We know the most is there's only one, but there's other ways. If one person is beautiful, the other person can be
More beautiful.
more beautiful. So we can have more. How about not as much? So we've got more and very.
The most is here.
But if we think about small, so with small, we don't do more small. We would say they were
Little.
smaller. We're augmenting that verb.
Smaller. Smaller.
There's
Small.
only one smallest, so that's the smallest. So we're looking at the ones in between small and the smallest. What's in between?
What's in between what?
How about too small?
Too small.
Okay, so sometimes we can mix up very and too.
Too.
So they have a slightly different meaning, don't they?
Yeah.
So I want to show you. You share. Yeah, we're going to take a quick look at an explanation of when do we use to and when do we use very? What's the difference between them? So this is a wonderful set of videos. I highly recommend that you take a look at them and have some fun with them. English in a minute. So if you don't have enough time for a 6-minute English lesson, there's always English in a minute. So let's see what he has to say about to and very.
Hi, I'm Phil from BBC Learning English. Today, I'm going to tell you how to use to and very. They're both intensifiers, but they don't mean the same thing. We use very to make an adjective or an adverb stronger. So we could say, the building is very old. That could be a good thing. It's beautiful. Or it could be a bad thing. It's falling down. Or it might not matter. If we use to with two O's, then it means it's a problem. You could say, it's too easy. It means it's a waste of time. It's a problem. It's not too difficult. In fact, it's very easy. Just remember that if we use to, it's a problem.
Right. What do you think? So what's the difference between very small and too small?
Positive benefit and negative benefit.
Well, with
Too
very, we
small.
don't know whether it's good or bad. We just know it's a lot. But if
Yeah.
we say it's too small, what do we know?
There is problem there.
Exactly. It's not big enough.
Yeah. Mhm.
Good.
And what if we say quite small?
Quite small. Quite is a lot like very.
Okay.
It's synonymous with very. So you can use it the same way that you would use very, quite small.
Question.
Yes.
What's an active verb? You
What is
said
it?
in your
What is an active verb? An active verb, can someone say? Does anyone have an answer to that question?
It's the opposite of passive verb.
Well, so this is actually a really good question, and let's get started actually on our work today. So what I'm going to do, how many people read the thing about cows from last week on News and Levels? Good job, John. You're my hero for that. Excellent, Intisar. Good. Well, today we're going to read those, and we're going to look for active verbs. We're going to pick them apart and find all of that structure that we were looking for before. So, put that down. So, yeah, what are we doing for time? So, all right.
Can I ask for something?
Oh.
You say where is the difference between the adverbs do and very? Because the very is the word that's time, and adverbs to is before what means there is more than what is want.
Okay, to and very augment an adjective or an adverb. So if
This is adverb because very it emphasizes the word that follow it. And to, it's like something means it's more than what is want.
Exactly. So if something was fast, it can also be very fast, but we don't want it to be too fast.
Too fast is like it's something that's more than what is want.
Yeah, it's a problem. So just like with adjectives.
And very and to is adverb.
It works for adverbs as well as adjectives, yes.
Yes, they come in before one adjective something.
Yes. Okay, we're going to pop over to News and Levels and have a look at this story. Let me just figure out how I want to. I think I'll just do the share screen so I don't have to pop through things too much. Yeah. There we go. Okay. So here's our story about cows in News and Levels. I'm going to just go ahead and pop this into the chat. Hopefully you can see it. There's that News and Levels as well. So, as we see in our first level, we have simple sentences. So if we're looking for verbs, they're pretty easy to find. You know what? I think we're going to go ahead. Let's have someone read this for us. Who would like to read this?
Is it this on the screen?
Yes. Can you read this for us?
Everything?
Yep, just the article. So starting with Spreka is a farm.
Is it Spreka is a farm in Bosnia? Is it that one?
Yes, please.
All of them.
Yep, you don't have to read the vocabulary at the bottom, just to hear.
Oh, Spreka is a farm in Bosnia.
Can I?
This farm is special it is one of the first farms to use modern technology.
Keep going.
The farm makes, is it biogas?
Yeah.
Biogas is a gas that comes
They're missing a word.
fermentation.
Yeah.
During fermentation, bacteria makes food or animal waste. Fermentation also makes heat. Farmers use some of heat. Some farmers use some of heat for farming, for farm buildings. Farms get some money from the government. Power is getting more expensive. Farmers look to save money. They become more independent with biogas.
Very good. Very good. Right. So simple sentences. Do we understand what the story is?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. I need another volunteer to read level 2. Who would like to read level 2?
I will.
Thank you. Please do.
Spreka farm in Bosnia is one of the first of the country to make electricity from animal waste. Is this the one?
Yes.
Okay.
Keep going.
Many farms depend on government subsidies, but energy prices are growing fast and farmers are looking to save money. The electric factory makes biogas from animals' waste and silage, which is grass and plants that cows eat. The factory has several parts. It mixes the waste and silage, and then fermentation creates biogas. Some heat from fermentation warms some farms' buildings. The factory makes more electricity in 1 hour than one family needs in 1 month. Farmers can become independent from government help. Difficult word.
Oh,
Okay.
that's okay. Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much. So more information in these sentences, yes?
Yeah.
Lots more. Do we understand the story better?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Level 3, I need another volunteer to read this out to us, please.
Can I read it?
Yes, please.
A high-tech Bosnia dairy farm is among the first of turn animal waste into electricity. Spreka farm is become self-reliant with biogas from animal waste and silage. Even as a high energy price threaten the subside
Subsidy.
subsidy
There you go.
dependent agriculture industry. The biogas plant produce electricity from renewable energy sources in a progress of several stages. A mixing pit, fermenters with mixers, storage for the biogas, and engines for power generation. Extra thermal energy heats some farm buildings. The project can produce more electricity in an hour than the average household's monthly consumption. When the plant is fully operational, it's be able to produce 600 kilowatts per hour.
Very good. Very good. So we now know a lot more, even more about the story. So is it an interesting story to you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I found it very interesting. So now what I'd like to do is let's take this apart and see how they got from those simple sentences to these nice, complex, wonderfully information-rich sentences. All right, so back to our structural English. So I'm gonna put that down. Ooh, there we are. So, yeah. So here we are. We've got our core sentence, our subject, verb, and object. And this is what our stack of blocks look like now. We've got a subject, a verb, an object. What's holding it all together? The active verb. Now, there are lots of different kinds of clauses. We looked at several of them. We used them to put together sentences last week. And now we're going to take this one apart and see what they used to make all of this information. So let's use our highlighter. We're going to use a highlighter to work through all of this and find all of our verbs, subjects, objects, and any clauses. All right. So if we take the first sentence, where is our verb? Let's look for the verbs first. So Spreka is a farm in Bosnia. What's the subject?
Spreka.
Perfect. What's the verb?
Is.
Yes. And the object or predicate is
a farm in Bosnia.
Fantastic. So if we look through each, yeah, no, we'll keep going. Just hate having to change.
This is exactly what a simple sentence, yeah?
That is exactly a simple sentence. So, but I'll tell you, in this level, they actually were a little bit tricky. So in the next sentence, where is our verb?
Is.
Is. Excellent. So look, green. It's very straightforward. Oh, wrong green, but that's okay. And how about in our third sentence, where's the verb?
Is.
Excellent. It is one of the first farms. Now, what is going on in this sentence? It is one
of the first one to use modern technologies.
Do you see another verb?
Yeah, to use.
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 Exactly. To use. But why is that? So this is now when we talk about active and inactive verbs. Because we've just run into a clause. Okay. So ultimately, our core sentence is subject, verb,
object.
Object. Okay. So it is one. One what? One. And we've got a prepositional phrase of, right? Of the first farms. Okay, so we've got a clause there. And to use modern technologies. What kind of farm? A farm that uses modern technologies. So as soon as we put that verb into a clause, what happens? Is it still green?
The sentence is start to be changed.
Yes.
Started to be changed.
So there's only one active verb in the sentence. Yeah. What happened? What happened when we realized that that verb is inside a clause?
it changed to passive.
It's not active. Exactly. It's inside that. As soon as it's inside the clause, it stops being a verb. So we can go through and find all of the verbs and then figure out which ones are active and which ones aren't. The most of these are going to be simple sentences because, again, this is level 1. So it's very simple. Well, except we've got another one. So let's look at the next 2 sentences and look for the verbs. The farm makes biogas.
Makes.
Excellent. Active verb. Don't worry, this is all going to get harder. Biogas is a gas that comes from fermentation.
Is.
Is. Do we see any other verbs?
Comes.
Makes.
Comes.
Make. Oh, comes.
Exactly, comes as a verb. But what is going on with that? So biogas is the, let's look at this sentence. Biogas is the subject, right? It is a gas.
A gas.
The object, exactly. And what is happening with the rest of that sentence?
Change to passive. That gas comes from
Link with.
fermentation.
And this is called a defining clause.
There is a replacement in the order of the sentence.
Yes. Well, all it is, this is actually a defining clause. It's a clause that's telling us what kind of gas that is. What kind of gas? A gas that comes from fermentation. So that is a defining clause. All right. It is telling us what kind of gas that is. So it's an adjectival clause. It's describing the gas. And because that verb is inside that clause, it's not the active verb. Okay. So let's see. They got a little bit crazy with some of the language on this. They didn't work on it. The heat. They missed out an article there. Sorry, I'm correcting their grammar. So during fermentation, what does that mean? Fermentation is a verb, but is this the active verb?
No, passive.
Right. Why is it passive? Why is it
Because
not?
I think this it used to be the object, the fermentation in the sentence.
I think fermentation is not a verb at all.
Oh, that's true. Fermentation is actually the noun form, isn't it?
Yeah, TION.
Good catch. Thank you. Keep me honest. But what is this? What are these 2 words doing? What are they telling us? Remember, we talked about with our sentence, like when the girl went to the shop. Do you remember that from last week? A little bit.
Yeah.
So this is
Time.
answering.
I think this is time for time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's giving us
When?
a time, isn't it? It's telling us
Yeah.
when something happened.
Yeah.
So, and so our only active verb in this sentence is
Make.
exactly. Very good. Fermentation also
Makes.
exactly. So we got all of these wonderful. It's pretty easy. We should be able to do this very quickly. Farmers.
Use.
Exactly. Fantastic. All our beautiful verbs. some of the heat for farm buildings. They've added a little clause there. So, and farms, on this sentence, farms get.
Get.
Yeah, there we go.
Mm.
Just find all of those active verbs.
Power is.
Yep. And this really is the biggest challenge in writing complex sentences, is keeping track of that active verb.
Look. Mm.
Look, exactly. So I know this is simple now. Trust me, it's going to get harder.
They become.
Exactly. Very good. So there's all of our beautiful simple sentences. And whew, there we go. Level 1. So there was a lot more information.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes, sure.
When we say look to save, look is an active verb and save it's a verb. So here, when we say to save, it's not a verb.
It's actually the object.
The object.
Mhm.
So not the money is the object. To
It's the
save,
predicate. Yeah.
to save money, it's all the object.
Because it is a simple
Because that's what
sentence.
the
Very
farmers,
object.
you could replace that with farmers want
Okay.
or try.
Hmm.
And you could still say that farmers want to save money, they try to save money. To save money is what they're striving for or looking for.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Good. So it's a verb, but it's not active.
Active verb. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
not active.
Can I ask question?
Yes.
What is fermentation? Is it during harvesting, or is it harvest? Is it another word for harvesting, or?
With fermentation.
Yeah.
Oh, fermentation means it's, in some sense, it's rotting. It's lots of things are done by fermentation. It's when bacteria acts, or sometimes bacteria, or yeast. But when organisms act on something, it ferments.
Okay.
Like if I want to make a yogurt, I use milk, and this the transformation will be the fermentation from milk to become yogurt. This called fermentation. This process.
Excellent, excellent example. Okay, if this happens to me, if I buy a drink that has sugar in it, and I drink some of it and I forget it in my office, and I come back after the weekend, and when I open it, it goes, the gas escapes. It smells a little funny. It's because it started fermenting. So, all right, let's keep going. So here we are. Let's find our, and there's one more thing besides that we need to look for as well. And that is, so we're going to look on level 2 for subjects, verbs, objects, and clauses. And what's a conjunction? When it's a
link words, the link words.
Linking words, that's another description. Who can name them for me, or type them into the chat, please?
I missed that one. What is it?
What are conjunctions or linking words?
Conjunctions.
Can you think of one? If you want to add more. Yes, and, but, and, or. Thank you in the chat. Well done. Those are our main ones, our and, which means additional, but, which means, which cancels the first statement, and or, which means both
Or.
are possible. Okay.
And what about either or neither?
Those are not conjunctions.
Conjunctions, okay.
Yes. Conjunctions are what you use to stick two independent clauses together.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll look at that. So let's start by looking for verbs again, and then we'll see how these sentences work. What is the verb in, what are the verbs in our first sentence? Spreka farm in Bosnia is one of the first in the country to make electricity from animal waste.
Is.
Yes, we still have a very simple word for our active word. Oftentimes is the active word in a sentence.
Yeah.
Are there any? Yes.
And it's something else. It's make. It's verb.
Yes, make is also a verb. Is it an active verb?
Yes.
Is it?
No. Passive.
Where are our clauses? So we've got Spreka farm is our object, our subject, sorry. And
Make electricity from. I don't think we don't have any clauses in this sentence.
and where are our clauses?
In the first sentence.
In our first, oops, sorry. This always jumps around when I do this. I've got, nope. There we go. Now it will stop jumping. Sorry about that. All right, so what makes up the clauses in this sentence?
In the country to make electricity from animal waste. Huh?
Bosnia, one of the first.
It's a prepositional clause. Where is the farm?
In the country, Bosnia.
In Bosnia. Why are we talking about it?
Animal waste.
And oh, I keep doing that. So it's actually all of this is a phrase. One of the first, oh, actually, no, one of the first is a clause. In the country to make electricity. And how do they make electricity? What do they make it from? From animal waste. Okay. So do you see how all of these pieces, just like we did with the girl going to the shop, you can keep adding in more information to answer more questions. Who is Spreka farm? That's great. That's our, and did, is, and what, one what? Well, now we need more information. Where in Bosnia? One what? One of the first what? The first in the country to make electricity. And how? From animal waste. So we are answering all of those who, what, where, why, and how questions. All right. So many farms depend on government subsidies, but energy prices are growing fast and farmers are looking to save money. Now, with conjunctions, often conjunctions are used to put independent clauses together. Now that means you need more active verbs, because in the country to make electricity, it doesn't make any sense. That's a dependent clause. That has to be attached to an independent, our core sentence. But if you want to put a bunch of core sentences together, you can. All right. They're called independent clauses. It means they can stand on their own. So let's look at this sentence. It's absolutely fantastic. So where are our verbs? Let's search for verbs first. Many farms depend on government subsidies.
Depend. The verb.
Depend.
Yeah,
Depend.
there we go.
Yes.
But energy prices are growing fast.
Growing.
Yeah, are growing.
Not growing.
Yeah. And farmers are looking to save money.
Are looking.
Yes. Exactly. So, right. So, let's see. We've got farms, right? We look for our subjects. We've got farms. On government subsidy, yeah. Energy prices are growing fast. What's our subject here?
Yeah.
Energy prices. Okay. And farmers are looking. Excellent. Okay. Where are our conjunctions?
But and.
Yes. So we've got but and. Great. So, do we have any dependent clauses in this sentence?
Yeah, we have.
Do we have any verbs that are not active?
No.
Not
Sorry,
really.
you haven't.
Yeah, so almost all of our, we've got a few clauses, but that's actually our object. Wait a minute. Color's the object supposed to be? Oh, that one should have been yellow. Sorry. Try and be consistent with these. Yeah, there we go. So many farms depend on government subsidies. That's to save money. That's what they're doing. There we go. So you can also use conjunctions to pack more information into a sentence, but you have to be very careful. You see that when we use conjunctions, we still have active verbs. All right. Please feel free to type in if you want to answer any of these. So, how are we doing? Shall we look at, so now we've got our clauses, and now we've got conjunctions. Shall we look at the level 3, or do we want to keep working on this one? What do you think?
Keep working on this one because it become more complicated, this sentence.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at the next sentence then. The electric factory makes biogas from animal waste and silage. Where's the active verb?
Makes.
Yep. This one's pretty straightforward. There's not. We've got the subject is the electric factory. Now, why have they used the the definite article here?
Because they speak about this one in this country.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very specific, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and the object of this one?
Biogas from animal waste.
That's for animal waste and silage. That's our.
Mhm.
And do we have?
Is.
Yeah, we've got another verb there, haven't we? But what is this? What is this? Which is grass and plants that cows eat.
This is this active clause or active phrase? Because like this like an answer for the waste of sludge.
Yes,
Animal
it's
waste.
describing the silage,
Right.
animal
Yeah.
waste silage, isn't it? So is it active?
Yeah. No?
Which is, could you use?
Yeah, because there is no subject in this
Exactly.
No subject.
Which is grass and plants that cows eat.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
because it's got that word which, it means it's describing, it's not an independent clause. It is a, which is why,
Passive.
yes,
Mhm.
that is a clause that is describing the animal waste and silage.
Mm.
Why am I not marking that and as a conjunction in the sentence? What's it connecting?
Because it's a part of the clause of the object.
Because it's connecting, it's parts of a list.
Yeah.
Parts of it's connecting parts of a list of the same things. So we don't, so it's not acting as a conjunction. It's just sticking nouns together, not sentences.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Shall we find out about the factory?
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at the next sentence. Feel free to pop in if you've got the answers to any of this. Where are the verbs in this sentence?
Has.
Yes.
The factory has.
Very good.
Several parts. Is it an object?
Several parts, that's the object, definitely. Okay. This one's a really complicated sentence because of what is that punctuation mark after several parts?
It's a colon. Is this a semicolon?
It's a colon, and it's acting like a conjunction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because those two sentences, what that colon is doing is it's saying these two sentences are linked. They're connected.
Linked. Okay.
So let's look at it mixes the waste and silage, and then fermentation creates biogas. Where are our verbs?
The mix. Mixes.
Yeah, mixes. And
waste.
One more.
And then creates.
Yes. Excellent. That's the one. So what else do we see in this section of the sentence?
Worms.
Conjunctions.
Yes. And that's acting as a conjunction this time, isn't it?
Yeah.
Exactly. So fermentation creates biogas. This is our sentence here. And it is our subject over here, right? And what's
Yeah.
that referring to?
It mixed. It refers to the factory.
Yes.
Mm.
So it always, you have to be very careful when you use pronouns because they will always refer to the last person, place, or thing you spoke of.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have to be careful about where you put them. But because we don't want to repeat the words the factory,
We use a pronoun.
we use the it to say, yes, exactly. The waste and silage is the object there. So it's great. Once we've got that, and what is then doing?
It worked like next.
Yeah, it's giving us an order.
Another step, or yeah.
Yeah, it's an ordinal. It's giving us an order for things. What
Yeah.
order did things happen in? This happened, and then that happened. So it's telling us when.
Yeah.
So really good. So that's a really good sentence to look at because once again, we've got two really good compound sentences. This one up here, that first one, which has 3 compounds in it. So 3 independent sentences put together. And this one, which also has 3 independent, because fermentation creates biogas, is a perfectly good sentence. It mixes the waste and silage, perfectly good sentence, right? And the factory has several parts, once again. So this is another way of taking those short sentences and packing them together to make a more complicated sentence. So compound sentences. Right, so let's look at this one. Some heat from fermentation warms some farm buildings. Is that a simple sentence or a complex sentence?
Looks like simple sentence.
It's pretty simple. I only see one verb in there. Where's that verb?
Yeah, warms.
Warms, exactly. So good, we've got a simple sentence there. So when you're writing, not every sentence has to be huge. Okay.
Yeah.
A mix of, if every, I read philosophy in university, and believe me, when you've got one big compound complex sentence after another, it becomes very exhausting to read.
Yeah.
So when you're trying to read, remember we're looking at how to write for clarity and comprehension. We want to communicate clearly.
Yeah.
So if every sentence has got lots and lots and lots of clauses in it, your reader is going to be a little confused and very exhausted.
Yeah.
So having some, so heat, ultimately we've got our simple sentence here is heat warms buildings. And everything else is just a little bit of adjective and prepositional phrase. So we've got some buildings. What kind of buildings? Some farm buildings. So those are all just describing the building. We have some heat. How much heat? Not a lot of heat, but some heat. Where is it from? We've got a preposition here, a little prepositional phrase saying where it's from. Very simple. A nice simple sentence. Whew, good. Give us a little bit of a break. Now on to the next sentence.
Makes.
So makes is our
The
next verb. Excellent.
Makes.
Fantastic.
More electricity in 1 hour.
Needs.
Needs is a verb.
No, not really.
Not really. No, it's not.
It's a verb, but it's not out on its own. It's so we've got the factory as our subject. Exactly. And
Farmers.
it makes electricity. How
More
much electricity?
is the object.
Yep. So, but we're augmenting it with more, so we got to, but what we've got here is a comparative.
Yeah.
All right. So what does it make? It makes electricity. What kind of electricity? More electricity. Well, more than what? We have, if we say it makes more of something, we need to say we've got half of our comparison going on there.
In 1 hour, more electricity in 1 hour.
Yes.
That means
So those more and than. Yeah.
one family needs.
We're gonna
In
make
1 month.
those.
In 1 month.
We're gonna make those light red because. And this. So we have a prepositional phrase here. Right? And
1 month.
another prepositional phrase there.
Needs in 1 month.
So all of this, so basically the factory makes electricity. And more than one family needs in 1 month is our
Wow.
description of how much electricity. Okay. And I'm gonna make this one pale again because it really, there we go. So more than, so more and than are working together to tell us how much electricity they are making. So all of this is modifying the word electricity. How much electricity? More in 1 hour than one family needs in 1 month. All right, but that's a comparison.
Yeah.
So that we use more and than for comparisons. Exactly. And what do we have for the last one?
The last one.
We have can and become.
Can
Can you take it both? The verb.
Can become.
independent from.
Yep. And then we've got a prepositional phrase at the end to tell us what they can become independent of.
Help from independent help.
Yeah.
From government help.
Excellent.
Yeah, farmers can become independent from government help. Yeah.
Very good.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, excellent. So there we are. We've broken the whole thing down. And found all of our active verbs. Here we go. Now, one last level. Oops, no. So I will send you all of this plus a whole nother article. Practice this, see if you can find all of the subject, verb, objects, clauses, and
Conjunction.
And the conjunctions. All right, and I will send that all to you, but now we're going to switch over to our introduction to our IELTS.
Yeah.
Right? So now we're going to move over to that. So welcome to everybody who is studying for the IELTS. So, do we know what the IELTS is? What does it stand for?
International.
English?
International
exam.
English Language Test System.
Yay, that's the one. International English Language Testing System. And that's the last time you have to know that. So there are some secrets to getting through this exam. It is totally different from every exam you have ever taken before. In most exams, you have a lot of information to memorize and maybe analyze and repeat on the exam. With this exam, it's all about, what's the word?
IELTS. English.
What? Keep trying.
English.
It's about English, that's definitely. But if you memorize all the rules of grammar, will you pass?
No.
What do you need to do on this exam to pass?
Basically, it's writing and reading, isn't it?
What are those?
Skills.
Yeah. What do we use reading and writing, listening and speaking for?
Vocabulary.
Say again?
Vocabulary.
Vocabulary, yes. What do we use them for in life?
Communication.
Thank you. This is an exam on communication. All right, completely different. It doesn't matter what you know or don't know. It's how well you can communicate. Sorry, the sun is about to blind me. There we go. So yes, it is an exam of communication. I have no idea why I've got that funny mark there. So on exam day, here are the most important things you need to get through it. Eat a good breakfast. It's going to be a long day. Take a water bottle, but soak it. Make sure that you take the label off beforehand. And do make sure you have the water bottle. You don't. Once you're in the exam, you're there. Pick pencils and blank paper. Now, in some of my students have gone in and they've been allowed to keep their blank paper. Sometimes the testing center has provided the blank paper. Take it with you, but definitely take pencils. Even if you're taking the exam on the computer. Even if you're taking the exam on the computer, make sure that you take pencils. All right. This is the most important thing.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you may.
Please. Are we gonna have exam?
This course is
yeah.
Preparing for the exam. This course does not provide you with an exam.
It prepare us for the exam.
It's preparing for it. Yes.
If we are doing like
if you need it, yes, if you need it to get into university, then this will prepare you to take it.
To take IELTS.
Yes, this is
this course.
Yes.
There is no exam in this course.
I'll give you lots of practice, but I can't give you an exam. You have to book.
No, we have to book exam for ourselves with IELTS.
Yes.
Thank you.
The rest of the course and all of the people who will help you and advise you will help you figure out whether or not you need it, and will also be able to help you access it. Okay.
Okay.
I'm here to help you pass it when you need it.
Okay. Thank you.
One of the most important things to do is breathe. Has anyone ever had exam anxiety? Do you get scared when you take an exam?
Yeah.
Well, they have found out. I love the science of learning. And one of the things that they have discovered that is if we have anxiety, if we are afraid, it physically shuts off. It physically shuts off parts of our brain. Now, this seems very strange, but it's actually a very important evolutionary structure in our brains. If you are, I always like to say, if you're, make it wolves, okay? Our brains are very good at responding to danger, wolves, okay? So once upon a time, we lived in the forest and we had to be careful because sometimes there were wolves. And if there were wolves, we needed to stop thinking about higher, like the meaning of trees or the purpose of things in our world. We needed to run. So we have evolved. We are all descended from people who, when they heard the wolves, they didn't stop to think about what is the meaning of wolves in the world. They ran. The ones who stopped to think were food. So we have this wonderful power in our brain, which is when we are scared, like if you are walking across the street and a car is coming, then you jump out of the way. Yes?
Yeah.
You don't think about it. You don't wonder about the color of the car or why it's going, where it's going. You jump out of the way, right? And once you are back on the pavement and you are safe, what do?
Have a breath.
A big, deep breath.
So
the thing is that our brains, when we're scared of something, the part of our brain that responds to fear, it doesn't distinguish between wolves or cars or trucks on the road. It doesn't distinguish between all of these things. The paper in front of us, that is the exam, if we are scared, our brain is going to do exactly the same thing that it does when the car is coming towards us. It's going to take all of the blood supply out of the higher functions of our brain and put it into that fight or flight, that runaway energy. So it's going to take it will actually change the blood flow. When we're afraid, it will take the blood flow and move it in our brain to the active part and take it away from all of the things that we need to think with, right? And that's what the fear, the anxiety of an exam does. It's why if you have anxiety in an exam, all of a sudden your mind will go blank. Oh, I can't think of anything. That's a physiological response. Now, we can't stop that piece of paper from making us a little bit afraid, can we? It's going to do it. And it's a physiological response, so we can't exactly control it. But because it's a switch that the fear turns on, we do have a way. There is a switch to turn it off. So what did we do when we got to the pavement and we were safe from the car? When we're safe, we take a big, deep breath, because when you're running away from the car, do you have time to breathe?
No.
No. When you're running away, when the thing is, when you're getting to safety, you're not breathing, you're just running. As soon as you're safe, we can use that. We can use that as a switch to tell the scaredy part of our brain that everything is safe. We can tell our body to change. We can tell our brain to restart that blood flow to the higher structures so that our working memory is functional. We can use that switch, and that switch is as simple as
Deep breath.
So there is a wonderful app. I love this app. It is the simplest. So many of breathing or meditation apps, they talk about, they have too many words in them for my taste. The one that I like the best is one called the Breathing app. Okay, it's very simple and it's a practice. So as you are preparing for this exam, these are the things that are going to make your brain work. All right, we can't memorize things for this exam. What we need to do is be able to go in and communicate at our very best. All right, and these are the things that will make it possible for us to communicate at our very, very best. So I'm going to show you real quick this app, and I will put a link to it in today's email. So I'm going to stop sharing that, and I'm going to change my camera. I'm going to turn off my background and show you. And this is the Breathing app. It's very straightforward. It's very simple. If I can find it, doing it backwards. As the bubble expands, you inhale. As it shrinks, you exhale. It's a free app. If you would rather have a sound to cue you, you can choose that. I like the bubble. I just sort of focus on the bubble. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. So I highly recommend this breathing app. Trust me, I have students who have used this practice of breathing on a regular basis. And when they got into the exam, they were able to quiet their brain, turn that higher function back on. I really can't emphasize it enough. So what I'm going to ask you to do if you're preparing for the IELTS, download this app and just spend 1 minute practicing it, practicing this simple straight breathing before you study. Anytime you're going to work on any of the practices for preparing for the exam, start by breathing calmly. Okay, start by breathing. And you will get used to it. And if you do it every time you study for the exam, when you go into the exam, you won't have to remember to breathe because you'll already do that. You'll look at the paper and tell your brain, no fear. Fear. It's a way you can tell your brain, I have nothing to fear right now.
Yeah.
And so in your exam preparation, that is the first and most important thing to do. Make sure that your brain is working. No amount of practice is going to help if you can't think. All right. So let's look at, there we go, the basics for this exam. It is a test of communication, not knowledge. It's all about the communication. So even if you don't have the biggest vocabulary in the world, if you use it well, you win. Okay, it's about communicating. Can you understand? So receptive communication, can you understand the listening and the reading? Can you communicate? Can you write? And can you tell people and get your point across. All right, and people understand. The answers are found, all of the answers in this exam can be found in one place, and that's in the questions. So,
Wow, the answer in the questions?
yes. I know it sounds like magic, but it really does work. It really does work.
Wow.
If you read and understand the questions, you win. Okay.
Wow.
The answers are found in the question.
Yes. So it's how well you read and understand the questions that will determine how well you do on the exam.
Wow.
So, like I said, it is like no other exam in the world. Absolutely no other exam in the world. So the exam itself is 3 hours long. So that good breakfast that I told you about, I meant it. The listening is 40 minutes. There will be 40 questions.
For the reading?
I'm sorry. Yep, the reading is 60 minutes long. So you have 1 hour. The writing is also an hour long. And last of all, the speaking, the shortest part, 15 minutes. Maximum of 15 minutes. Okay. Now, at some places, they may put the speaking on a different day or certainly at a different time. The only thing that you'll have a break between is the listening, the reading, and the writing will be in that order and all in a row. So no breaks at all between the listening and the writing. So all of that happens 1, 2, 3. There will be a break, and then you will have a private interview for the speaking exam.
So how does the listening go? Anyway, maybe you will come to it, the listening questions.
So,
yeah.
First thing you need to do in the listening is
breath. Take a big breath.
Big deep breath. How many times will the tape be played? Who knows?
Once.
Yes. You get to listen to it once. The answers can be found in
the question.
Yes. Oh, very
wow,
good.
this is amazing. I can't believe it.
Fantastic. Because how do we know what to listen to? How can we know what to listen for if we don't know the questions?
Yeah.
All right. There will be 40 questions. It's hard. Do you think that you need to get all of the questions right?
No.
There's a curious thing about this exam, and that there is only one exam. Whether you are, and it goes from 1 to 9. 9 is what the instructors can get, and lots of other good people who really, it basically means your English is completely natural at that point, right? If you're not expecting to get a 9, you will not be able to answer all the questions because there's only one exam for all those levels. Everything from beginning to expert, one exam. So even if you are super good and you are expecting a 7 or an 8 on this exam, there will still be questions that you cannot answer because they have to have questions to differentiate, to tell who is an 8 and who is a 9. So even if you are super good, there are going to be questions you cannot answer. All right.
Is it a very tough, is it hard exam, this one, IELTS?
If you expect to get a 9, it's very hard. If you have a good level, range of vocabulary for the level that you need for your 6 or your 7, it is less hard. Okay.
So what mark can you get to enter university?
Most universities require a 6 or above. Some of them will, with a 6, that will give you access to a foundation year course. To some universities will require a 7 or above. Yeah, okay, Chad. Thank you. Yes, so for certainly any of the Russell Group universities, you need a 7 or above to attend. The skills that you will be using for this communication are the skills that you will be using to complete your degree. All of them. So being able to listen and get the information that you need when your professor is talking, you need that. When you're listening to a lecture, when you attend a conference, places where you can't repeat things, you need to be able to take in the information that you need and analyze it quickly. So the skills that are on this exam are all of the skills that you need to complete your degree. All right. The good news on the listening, yes, it's only played once, but the answers will come in the same order as the questions, which means that you will always be listening forward. That means if you don't, oh, that's okay. Yeah. Listening forward means that if you hear the answer to one question, you're listening for the next one immediately. Okay. So that's what listening forward, and we'll practice that. This is why I gave you the vocabulary before the listening this morning, and I'll keep doing that so that you're always listening for specific things. All right. There you go. If you miss something, this is the hardest part of the listening exam. If you miss something, you have to let it go and go for the next answer. I'm going to hurry through some of this, and you can always guess at the end. Reading, most important. You have an hour, but there are 3 academic articles. If you read the articles, you will run out of time. No one can do it. So the question is, but if you read the questions, then you know what information you need from that article.
Yeah.
And you can get it quickly.
Yeah.
And you can predict the answers. We will look at, when we're looking at the questions, we're going to look for the guide words. What are the words in that question that tell us what to look for in the article? Okay. Skip the difficult questions, leave them for the end. Those might be the level 9 questions that you don't have to answer anyway. And guess, at the end, you can guess any of the questions that you didn't get. And I'll give you methods for that. Writing, there are 2 tasks. I'm sorry, we're running out of time, so I'm going to run through this quickly. I think we're going to go for 45 or more minutes of next class for the IELTS stuff. But if you can, if you can't, I'll keep working on this and record the whole thing. If you have to leave, I appreciate that. You can watch the recording for the rest of this if you miss it. So I'll just continue and it will be in the recording. Thank you. All right. You need, for the first task, 150 words. We use 20 minutes of our time for this one. It's a description of a graph, a table, or a process. 250 words minimum. For task 2, and it's to express and defend an opinion. Right. The important ways, the ways that you get your 7 or above in writing is to plan it, because they are looking for structure, completeness. Did you address the whole task? That's the first thing they look for. Structure, is everything in the right order? Are your paragraphs clear? Vocabulary, do you have the words you need? You don't have to have specialist vocabulary, but do you have enough words? And can you use them accurately? All right. And in the grammar, can you construct effective sentences? Not every sentence has to be a compound or complex sentence, but can you use compound and complex sentences to get your point across? And can the reader understand your meaning? So this is why I work so much on the basic structure of a sentence, because those give you clarity, and clarity is super important. Okay. So in the writing, task 1, 150 words. Most important, you have to describe what you see. Don't bring any new information into this. You're only describing what you see. This is, can you be clear and accurate? So what do you see? There's
Graph.
a
We see
graph.
graph
Yep.
with the bars.
And a flow chart and
Bar chart.
and a table. So we've got a
And a
bar chart,
table.
a flow chart, and a table. That's it. No opinions, but you can analyze the different levels and the analyze what you see.
Okay. Just what you see, nothing more.
Yes. And well, you can analyze the relationships between the different things that you
The
see.
different things.
Yes.
Okay.
But you bring in no new information from outside. It doesn't matter if there's actually one of my instructors said she had a student who was a doctor and was taking the IELTS, and they had and she had a question or a graph that was on a medical subject that she knew about, and she answered it from her knowledge rather than what was on the page. It's okay, don't worry. And unfortunately, she did not pass that section because it was about describing what was in front of you, not what you know.
Okay.
So we start with an overall statement, and we give a clear and complete description. All right. We're going to,
Yeah.
then there will be a key features. You want to point out all of the important things that you see, and then analyze how those things relate to each other. And that's it.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes.
Who offer these courses? How can I, because I want to do it. I want to do IELTS course.
Okay.
I want to do
You're
exam.
in an
yeah.
IELTS course. The exam, okay, we'll have to
So
answer.
this is the course, but the exam, I mean.
I need to answer that later, okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you. In the writing for task 2, reading the question is the most important thing. Again, highlight the key words, find main points, and plan your answer. You want to sit there and use that wonderful brain of yours to come up with as much information as possible on the subject, and then put those ideas in order. Think of examples that you can use, and then you can write. State your position in the introduction. Make sure that every idea has its own separate paragraph. Use 2 to 4 supporting points within each paragraph with examples. At the end, check for errors and read everything in reverse order. I'll show you how well this works to find all of your grammar and spelling mistakes. Right. So in the speaking exam, there'll be 11 to 14 minutes. There are 3 parts to it. Initially, you say hello, you introduce yourself. That's part of the exam. Then they ask you a few things about things that you like, maybe where you have lived, little things like that. And then you will be asked to talk about a given subject. You're given a topic card and 1 minute to prepare, and then asked to speak for 2 to 3 minutes on that subject. It's a little bit like the task 2 writing, in that if you give yourself some things to talk about when you're sitting there thinking in that 1 minute, then you will do better. Then they are going to ask you further questions about the given subject. So why would they ask you questions? They ask you questions to help you use more grammar and more vocabulary. The examiner's job is to see how high you can go and to help you get there. In the speaking exam, the examiner is actually your ally. Their job is to see how high you can go, how much grammar you can use. Can you use comparatives? Can you use modals? Can you talk about the past, the present, and the future? What tenses can you use? And they will ask you questions designed to give you the opportunity to use all of this extended vocabulary and grammar. Right. So the assessment will be based on what tenses you can use for complex and compound sentences. So they'll ask you to speculate, to go, ooh, what if this happened? They're looking for sufficient vocabulary to communicate on any subject at all. And fluency, how easily you speak. Pronunciation is how well you can be understood. It is not about accent. Accent is not measured, only the clarity of your pronunciation. Listen to the examiner. A lot of people forget this part, because remember, their questions and prompts are there to improve your mark. That's their job. Right. But most important in this exam, with all of our preparation, and we're going to work on all of the skills we need for these, but the most important is to remember to breathe. So that was a quick overview of the exam. Next week, we will work on listening. All right.
Okay. All right.
Are there any questions now?
Yeah. About the exam, you're gonna offer the course, isn't it?
And I'm going to